Good morning, America. My name is John, and I am the traditional liberal. Let's talk about diet for a bit. The USDA recommends that half of your plate be fruits and vegetables, more than a quarter be grain, and your protein be lean. The first edition of these guidelines was launched in 1980. And since then, while cardiovascular disease rates have declined slowly, diabetes rates have risen. Obesity's rates have risen. Okay, so clearly something isn't working here. Obesity and diabetes on the rise will eventually lead to CVD rising again. And maybe the reason CVD rates have decreased is better testing, early detection, and intervention, because that has definitely happened too. Here's what we know for certain. Diabetes is characterized by hyperinsulinemia. High insulin is caused by high blood glucose levels. High blood glucose levels come from excessive consumption of carbohydrates, fruits, vegetables, and grains. More than 3/4 of the plate, really? Obesity is caused primarily by excessive calories, but I think there is a strong argument to be made that not all calories are created equal. Yes, the guy on the Twinkie diet lost weight, but I imagine he was starving and sickly. And carbs have addictive properties, especially sugars. So here is where I'm going to strongly deviate from the general consensus. This is me a few years ago, almost 280 pounds, but I didn't think I was unhealthy. Sure, I was tired all the time, but I work a lot. And yeah, sure, my joints ached, but I was getting older and I had a knee injury from when I was in the Air Force. And yeah, I snored, but I had bad seasonal allergies, so who doesn't? Then my wife went carnivore. And her health improvement was drastic. And without going into details here, it is not an exaggeration to say that it literally saved her life. But I wasn't having any health issues, right? I was pretty healthy. So surely I would just lose some weight if I did this. Well, I lost some weight all right. I've lost over 65 pounds of fat at the same time as gaining muscle, both muscle mass and strength. Those joint problems, completely gone. I used to have peripheral neuropathy from neurotoxin exposure in my hands. That went away. My seasonal allergies are gone. I'm not as tired. I didn't even know I was experiencing brain fog until that was gone. My mental health has improved, and I'm off 2 medications as a result. Oh, and I stopped snoring. And the obvious thing that people always say to that is, I lost weight. Of course I stopped snoring. But here's the thing. If I eat carbs, I will snore that night. It's not the weight, it's inflammation. I had I had quite a few carbs for Thanksgiving, so sorry, honey. I know I snored for a few days over that. Now, I'm not saying that everybody needs to go carnivore, but red meat and saturated fats are not the enemy. And we eat way too many carbs and way too much processed junk. And now, before someone tells me my heart is going to explode, all vitals and blood work are good. It turns out that a lot of the research connecting saturated fat to heart disease was done in rabbits like 50 years ago. Rabbits. An herbivore that eats its own poop to fully digest it was used as a corollary for humans. A lot of newer research is actually showing that saturated fat is not dangerous at all, and that high LDL by itself may not be as big a risk factor for heart disease as we thought, provided that HDL is also high and triglycerides are low. And I bet before I even post this, there is a vegan just waiting to tell me that I'm going to get cancer from that red meat. Well, let me tell you a story about that. Many decades ago, a large epidemiological study was done that showed an 1,100% increased risk of lung cancer from drinking coffee. That's odd, right? Until someone realized a lot of smokers drink coffee. So they controlled for that and found that the actual risk from coffee was 0. And this is called a confounding variable. So I've read studies linking red meat to cancer, at least 8, actually. And you know what none of them control for? Smoking, drinking, diabetes, obesity, metabolic syndrome, other dietary factors. Like that red meat being served with fried potatoes and white bread. None of it. Now, I have come across one study that says that it controlled for a few of these, but I have not had time to read that one in depth yet, so I can't comment on that. But most of these studies didn't contain the words control or adjusted at all. I did a full text search. And even with no controls for confounding variables, most of them found such a small increase in risk that it is practically a statistical blip. And if a dietary study doesn't control for any confounding variables, then its results are meaningless. I could go on for hours on this topic, but I'll leave you with this. Not only has there been a very measurable and huge improvement in my physical and mental health, there is an effect that people on this diet call carnivore calm or zero carb zen. I am so much more peaceful and calm now. My life is better in every way. It's even cheaper, believe it or not. But if you had a crystal ball and you could accurately predict that eating this way was going to cut 10 years off of my life versus if I went back to how I ate before, well, it's a good thing I have life insurance because I will never go back to feeling the way I did before. And that's all I have for you today. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to hear more, and comment below your thoughts on this. Thank you, and good night, America.